Welcome everyone to Sportsbook Review Videos. It is once again the end of the week, which means it is time to start taking a look at some of our Week 7 best bets. And who else is here to join me? None other than your guy, Swinging Johnson, to try to give you some winning picks here on our totals for week number 7. Now, we haven't been as successful. I cashed my total last week, but man, I haven't been much better than you, Swinger, on these totals. I think I've only cashed 2 or 3 this season out of 6 weeks, so not too great here, but let's see if we can jump back on track this week. I think I like your pick a little bit here, so what do you got for us?
Well, it's funny. When I was reviewing the slate of games in Week 7, I was ascribing totals to each and every one of them, and I was actually either dead on or only a point off. Now, that's really not nearly as impressive as it sounds because 85% of these totals fall within 40 to 49 points.
Yeah.
That being said, when you don't have a real strong lean on something, you really have to start doing a hell of a lot of research. And I came up with the Vikings-Lions here. Vikings, they don't score many points as evidenced by their 29th ranked scoring offense and dead last in terms of passing yardage per game. But they do have a guy named Adrian Peterson in the backfield who knows a thing or two about running the rock. Now, defensively, they rank second in the league in points allowed with opponents averaging only 16.6 points per game. Lions, on the other hand, they put up big numbers last week as Matthew Stafford looked like what everyone believes Matthew Stafford is supposed to look like as he shredded the Bears with 4 touchdowns and 405 passing yards. But that was the most they've done offensively all season. And, it's no small coincidence that it happened against the Chicago Bears.
The Bears, man.
The Bears. Exactly. It's the Bears. So here are some stats to consider. Under is 5-0 in Lions' last 5 games as an underdog of half a point to 3 points. Under is 6-0 in Vikings' last 6 games overall. The under is 6-0 in the Vikings' last 6 versus the NFC North. And finally, the under is 4-0 in the Vikings' last 4 games following an ATS win. Bottom line is that while Adrian Peterson is chewing up yards on the field, the clock will be chewing up time on the scoreboard. I say play under 44.5 in this one.
Yeah, do not get mesmerized by what the Lions did last week. We gave a little bit of that advice in our spreads video. It is always true once again here with the Lions. Do not overestimate what they did against the Chicago Bears. Now, even back at home against this Minnesota Vikings defense, which is by far much, much better than what the Chicago Bears are putting forth on that side of the football. So I like where you're going. I thought this total might be a little bit higher than what it is. 44.5, I think, still good enough for your under here. I like that play as well. I'm going to go with the play on the Texans and Dolphins. Now, speaking of teams that broke out of their slump last week, man, the Miami Dolphins, I don't think anybody saw that kind of a turnaround coming after the coach firing and having the week off as well. But they looked outstanding on both sides of the football last week. And even though I don't think their defensive success is going to follow them into this week against the Houston Texans, even at home, I think that was a little bit fluky. They scored a defensive touchdown. They had a couple. I mean, it just really all around perfect game for them. I think things are going to be a little bit different here this week, but I do think their turnaround on offense actually is warranted here. They're running the football more with Lamar Miller, which I think everyone has been clamoring for from this football team through the first 6 weeks of the season. Now coming in against the Houston Texans defense that is good, but has not been as good as a lot of people projected. Even though they've been a little better, I think on the road here is key for them, as well as the fact that I think Bill O'Brien finally has stopped messing around and realizes that Brian Hoyer is the best man for the job here at starting quarterback. He may be partial to his guy, Ryan Mallett, who he coached in New England, but Brian Hoyer is absolutely the guy here. And I think that adds a lot of offensive production to this squad here, especially on the road against a team like Miami that has struggled at least a little bit on defense this season. I think they'll probably play better this week, but things to consider. These two teams combined 7-3-1 against for the over already this season. And if you take away their non-conference matchups combined for their conference matchups this season, they're 6-1 cashing the over against AFC teams. I think this is an easy overplay at 44.5. The total is just slightly lower than what I projected it as. I thought it would be over 45.5, 46 points perhaps. I think the low total gives this one a little bit of value as well. I'm expecting about 2 or 3 touchdowns and a handful of field goals from each of these teams. Over 44.5 is my play on this one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the Miami Dolphins now have a head coach that looks like Sergeant Slaughter or Drill Sergeant somewhere. My God almighty. Yeah. And, you could see it. I mean, there was like a metamorphosis that took place. And, yeah, I mean, I think at first blush, you think of Houston, and the first thing you think of is defense. But let's be real. I mean, this defense of Houston has not been what everyone thought it was going to be, and Miami seems to be reborn a little bit. So, yeah, looks good to me.
Yeah, I don't think the Houston Texans defense, other than their front four, is really any, or I guess front three, but anything you need to get really concerned about here. I think from this team, as long as they can protect Ryan Tannehill, which the offensive line for Miami's actually been a little bit better. I think one of their lone bright spots so far this season, outside of last week. So yeah, I'm looking for a lot of points scored in this one. I think it's going to be a little faster paced game than what a lot of people are projecting here. But over 44.5 is my play on that one. Swinger's going with under 44.5 for his play between Minnesota and Detroit. And those are your total picks for week number 7. Best of luck to you on both of those. For Swinging Johnson, I'm Jordan Sharp. Best of luck to you on all your week 7 NFL picks.